Welcome back to Gibbo MMA, and there is no UFC this weekend. So I was looking around the combat sports world, the landscape of it all, what is on this weekend, and I came across some old UFC vets getting in the boxing ring. Yes, that's right. MisFits Boxing is this weekend. We've got Darren Till, Luke Rockhold, Tony motherfucking Ferguson. Oh boy, I don't know if I can watch my boy Tony get in there against Salt Pappy, who is a respectable boxer despite being that influencer, but he's had a few fights, Salt Pappy, but we're gonna preview a bit of this boxing card. Yeah, those are the end of the UFC. Oh, Dylan Dennis as well. But we're going to have fun with it today. I wanted to still put out an episode for you guys. We're going to do a bit of a review of the year so far in the UFC. Just going to look at who's been the fighter of the year so far, rookie of the year, best pay-per-view card. And we're just going to have fun with it. And just look back on what's occurred. And then and also look ahead a little bit what's in store for the rest of the year in the UFC. But yeah, we're just going to have fun with it. And as there's no UFC this weekend, I am pretty happy to have this weekend off. It's been very much go, go, go. It's just a constant, the dice are constantly rolling in the UFC. Every day something happens. Usually every weekend there's a card to preview and then a card to review. And it's good to have a week off. So I'm very happy we can kind of talk about other stuff in the MMA world and not just who's fighting at the Apex this weekend. So let's get started with this MisFits Boxing card. I believe it's run by KSI, the YouTube influencer, and it's a really good thing they're doing in boxing because not everyone wants to be a professional boxer, but a lot of people in that space, they can hype up, promote. There's a lot of influencers with their own platforms, and they do a 10-week camp or whatever. It's good content, and they get in there, have a crack. It's not the highest level of boxing or whatever, but it's given a new look. It's given the fans. It's very much, if you're going to talk a lot of shit, let's see you back it up. So I do like this concept. They're not trying to be the best, putting on the highest level of fights. They just, let's get these people with big platforms and see them fight. And yeah, this is what this is. However, there are ex UFC fighters, so we've not just got someone coming off the couch from playing FIFA boxing. We've got legit fighters in from MMA UFC stepping into the boxing ring. And let's start with the main event. Darren Till, he's already had a few boxing fights. As you know, he's had a great career in the UFC, kind of went downhill. Just a lot of injuries for Darren Till, unfortunately. And I believe that window's still open to come back, but he's making some good money here. And he's fighting Luke Rockhold. He was originally trying to get Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal, but just didn't work out. He called Jorge Masvidal, who was on holidays. As you know, Masvidal knocked out Darren Till in the UK, but Masvidal just wasn't ready. So we might see that in the future. But Luke Rockhold gets the call up. Rockhold, he's been on a lot of side quests. He's done bare knuckle boxing, lost to Mike Perry, his tooth came out. He's done karate combat. He's done some jiu-jitsu stuff. And this will be his boxing debut. I believe so. I don't think he's done any other boxing. I'm just looking at his record. Because he's done so many side quests. You go on Tapology and it's got MMA, boxing, grappling, karate, bare knuckle boxing. You got to save through it. So yes, this will be his debut in traditional boxing. So I assume they will have 10-ounce gloves, I'd say. So this is exhibition boxing. This isn't a sanctioned pro fight. And Darren Till's becoming the king of exhibition boxing from coming over from the UFC. So let's look at Darren Till. So if we just go to his boxing. So yeah, he's 3-0, Darren Till in exhibition boxing. Made his debut July last year. And this will be his third fight on the MisFits card. So that's good to see him get some consistency with the promoter who's delivering and not getting fucked over, which is great to see because these types of promotions where you got just influencers and it's getting sanctioned, of course, with the athletic commission, but as far as like it's not a professional fight, it's very much the wild, wild west, these kind of events, and you don't know if you're going to get screwed over with the promoters and getting paid, and if it's going to be run well, if you're going to be serviced well as a fighter throughout fight week with contracts, and if you're going to get left hung to dry. So this is the one thing I like about this promotion with MisFits. This is like their 23rd event, and you got to give them credit. I've got to give KSI credit for putting these events on and giving ex UFC fighters a chance to make more money, because MMA is just super hard to keep doing for a long time, whereas boxing, you just got to worry about these two. The training's not as grueling on the body. Obviously, it's super hard. It's one of the hardest sports in the world to do, but you're not wrestling, you're not getting tackled and dropped on your back, you're not getting choked out. So it's a bit lighter on the body. Not saying it's easy, it's just not as hard as a grueling training camp of a mixed martial arts fight. And there are two types of boxing promotions, as we're seeing. We're seeing these influencer promotions, and then you see the pro level promotions of Top Rank, Eddie Hearn's one, Matchroom Boxing, Queensberry. So these two types of promoters are really doing well for themselves and not taking away from each other's market. They're kind of working well together, these two types of boxing promotions, with the influencer type and then obviously the pro boxing type. And it's great to see. So who will win in this fight? Darren Till versus Luke Rockhold. I believe Darren Till will win this. He's got the more experience. Rockhold's strengths are in his kicks. So by doing a boxing match, he essentially takes away 50 to 80% of his weapons away. So now he's only left with two, because he's got great grappling, Rockhold. So as far as the boxing sense, the only time we've seen him was with Mike Perry, and he got steamrolled. Bare knuckles, a different beast though, as far as no gloves, smaller ring, and it's 2-minute rounds. So I got Darren Till winning this, and yeah, I think it's just going to be a fun fight. As far as like work rate, we could see them get gassed out, so it just depends. Yeah, it's just going to be a fun couple of they're not old, but just vets going at it. You know, it's not going to look bad or anything, but you could just, as far as from like pro boxers and energy and output, it would be definitely lower, but it's good to see two UFC guys get in there, and they're not influencers who have done a 10-week camp and then fighting, and after 2 rounds they're going to be looking like they've never boxed before. We're going to see some good technical skill out of these guys. Now, the co-main event, the one that got me shook when I heard this announcement. And when you hear these announcements of a retired fighter then go on to then get a fight again, you start to think, get a bit of like hate, not hate, but trying to word it right. When I see a guy like Tony Ferguson who ended his UFC career on an 8 fight losing streak or whatever and could just clearly see it's time to hang it up, now get booked in a boxing match against a young kid, and you just like, oh, what are we doing? Stop trying to use his name to build your event. But I think we're all good here. I think this is good for Tony Ferguson. He's not versing an ex UFC fighter or a guy who's been boxing for a long time. Salt Pappy, I don't know him too well, but he used to be a big boy and he's slowly trimmed down, and he's done like a handful of exhibition boxing bouts. Salt Pappy, he's got knockouts on his records, he's got losses. So, and where I was a bit shook was like a guy like Tony Ferguson, interim UFC interim lightweight world champion, didn't get the fights with Habib, and you feel like his name is now being lowered in this fight. And as I look into it more, I just go, hey, you got to use your name to get your money, to get these fights. And I can see Salt Pappy, he's been pretty respectful, and I think you'd just be pinching himself like, who had this in their bingo cards? You'd never think, if I was Salt Pappy to go, I'd be facing Tony Ferguson in a boxing bout. So I what we're going to see out of both these guys, what's going to happen, I've really got no idea. I feel like Ferguson's out of habit's going to throw an elbow on accident and get a disqualification. Because if you've seen videos of him working on these mannequin tools and he's doing his karate stuff with it, a lot of elbows and spinning stuff, those habits, I don't know if he's going to be able to shake that coming into the boxing ring. So we could see some elbows from Tony accidentally, but happy if he's getting paid a lot. And it's 6 3-minute rounds. So, hey, he's done some hard fights in the UFC, and this will probably be an easy paycheck for him. Probably if he loses via as long as he doesn't get hurt, that's a win for me. Even if he loses, like, I've seen him lose enough. What's another one? Obviously, pride and dignity, but I just don't want to see him get knocked out. That's all. So. Let me just see, before I pick, I'm picking Tony because I've been picking him every fight for the past 8 losses, and, I'm going down with the ship. So, yeah, so I'm looking at his losses here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, his last fight was August last year against Michael Chiesa. Gets round 1 rear naked choked. And a year later now is doing an exhibition boxing bout. So is this a fall off? The fall off happened a few years ago. I think the fall off started against Justin Gaethje during COVID when he got absolutely beat up. I lost a part of myself during that. The soul, a piece of me left my body. A piece of me left during that fight, seeing Tony Ferguson absolutely get bashed by Justin Gaethje, and knowing that the Habib-Tony fight will never happen now, because it was literally going to happen, then COVID hit, Habib couldn't fight, visa issues or whatever, and we had to see Gaethje come in and beat the hell out of Tony, and not Gaethje's fault, but we never got to see Tony Habib, and I think Tony would have got steamrolled by Habib because it was just too late in his career. But that's where I believe the downfall happened. So the downfall for this fight isn't happening. This could be Tony's title run. This could be a new career for Tony. If all he has to worry about is hands and boxing and not wrestling, his knees are shot, all he has to worry about is just ones, twos, this could be a resurgence in his career. Yes. How old is he? Yes, he's 41. Who knows if he's able to take PEDs? Who knows what the testing system is for these exhibition bouts? He might be able to get on some good stuff to give his career a bit of longevity in this space, and we could see him doing exhibition boxing more throughout these years. So yeah, this is pretty exciting. I just hope Tony doesn't die. That's all. Now we move on to, this will be the last fight I'm going to preview of this card. I don't know anyone else, but just another big name was Dylan Dennis. I mean, the output of his talking is like up here, and the output of his fighting is like down here. It's probably going to be off camera. I mean, probably on my hands on the floor. So Dylan Dennis, as well as you know, is a great jiu-jitsu practitioner. He was in the fight camps for Conor McGregor, Habib, and he's an absolute goon troller, very good at it. And his last fight was against Logan Paul, and that was a weird time. It says he lost via unsportsmanlike conduct in round 6. I forgot what happened. I feel like there was like a brawl in the ring. I don't know, but he's a great promoter. He hypes up fights well with his shit talking. Does he cross the line? 100%, but when it comes to prize fighting in this game, there really isn't a line. Not unfortunately, but it just is what it is. I believe on Mike Tyson's podcast, Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson, I don't think he still does it anymore, but I think Habib was on it and they were talking about the trash talk, and Mike Tyson, I'm just trying to remember, he was just kind of saying like there isn't really a line when it comes to talking in this game. Like say whatever you want, really, because you got to back it up. You're going to get in there anyway, but there's no rules and regulations about what can and what can't be said in this fight game. And Dylan Dennis is the epitome of crossing that line that doesn't exist. So he's had a few MMA fights, Dylan Dennis. He's 2-0 in Bellator. He hasn't fought in MMA since 2019. And it's just been due to injury. I believe he's had unlucky ACL injuries, some hectic surgeries. And I believe this is his boxing. This will be his second boxing fight. And as you know, jiu-jitsu is a jiu-jitsu guy. So his boxing's not that great, but obviously he uses his name and shit talking to elevate himself for people to watch regardless of his low-level skills in boxing. And yeah, that's about it in this card. So we just got some fun fights, exhibition boxing, Darren Till. Darren Till, people thought he was going to be the next UFC welterweight champ. The guy was cutting like crazy amounts to get down to welterweight, bit of TJ trying to get down to flyweight-esque type of stuff. And he was on that great run until Mazadov knocked him out in his hometown. That was a huge wake-up call. In 2019, Jorge. So he lost to Tyron Woodley. So he did fight for the belt against Tyron Woodley. He lost round 2 dash choke. And then he fights Jorge Masvidal, gets knocked out. And then I believe that's when he moved up to middleweight. Fought Calvin Gastelum, split decision win. And then fought Robert Whittaker in a high-level striking match. Like watching that, I felt on edge a bit watching that because it was just like two guys high-level problem-solving, going tit for tat. And Robert Whittaker just got the best of him. And that was during COVID in 2020. And then he had a full year off, a lot of cancelled bouts. I believe he was just having a lot of injury struggles. And then he loses to Derek Brunson, rear naked choke, 2021. And then he fought DDP. He did pretty well. He was doing pretty well against DDP up until the end of the third round. He lost by a rear naked choke. So the last time he fought in the UFC was in December of 2022. And since then, he went on a bit of a hiatus, and now he's returned into the exhibition boxing scene and seems to be doing well for himself. And that's what you want to see. Fighters get paid for doing what he loves. I was listening to some interviews between Rockhold and Darren Till on MMA Fighting, Adam Martin, and it was pretty interesting. Darren Till, the way he talks, and as you know, the old saying, "Oh, there are two types of people," and the route Darren Till took was very different and quite funny. He's pretty much saying, "I'm the type of guy who knows I'm a wanker." Darren Till said, "I know that I'm a wanker." And the difference between me and Darren Till, and the difference between me and Luke Rockhold is I know that I'm a wanker. I know that, but doesn't. Luke doesn't know he's a wanker, but he actually is. And that's the difference between me and him is I know what I am, and I know that I'm a wanker, but Luke Rockhold doesn't know that he's a wanker and doesn't seem to think he is, but he is the biggest wanker. And that was just pretty funny. It went down that route. You'd think, oh, we're going to talk about maybe their skill sets in the boxing and what the difference in their skill sets will be in the ring, but it was, what's the difference between knowing who is who and who is a wanker and who isn't? And yeah, I thought that was pretty funny, and that just kind of shows you a bit about these type of influence. Not like they're not influencers, like they're professional fighters, but when it gets down to this level of exhibition events, the kind of talking isn't necessarily around the actual technical side of the fighting. It's just around personality, and because they're older guys, so they've got a lot of history to talk about. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. And what's been talked about most is just their characters. But yeah, I'll leave the MisFits Boxing at that. Let me know who you think will win. Will Tony get the win? Dylan Dennis, Till Rockhold. Let me know your prediction if you're going to watch it. I think it's on early AM Australian time, Sunday morning, probably like a 5 AM sort of thing. So I'm not sure if I'm going to watch it. I might just have to watch the highlights because yeah, I don't think it's worth getting up for in Australia because it's held in the UK or something. But I wanted to just I'll move on now. I wanted to just do a bit of a quick review UFC because it's August now. Probably should have done it in July, but I think having the week off now, it's just been super go, go, go every week sort of thing with the UFC. And I'll do a quick rankings update. We had Aljamain Sterling bump 2 places to 5th after his win over Brian Ortega in the featherweight division. So he's now a top 5 featherweight, Aljamain Sterling. He calls his shot to verse Volk. We'll see what happens. He posted video, Aljo, of his elbow, and it doesn't look good. So he probably won't be able to fight in December, depending how his elbow. He literally had like a balloon coming off it. Brian Ortega, people are saying he shouldn't be ranked at featherweight. He's now ranked 7. He's trying to move up to lightweight. And after those weight misses, he should just be thrown out of the rankings. But who else are you going to put in there? Johnny Walker bumps to 12, so he only moves up 1 position. And yeah, not a whole lot of movement in the rank. Charles Johnson is now 13th in the rankings. He was 15th. Because I want this guy to I want to see him fight for a belt. Because he's 34, the UFC kind of try not to push him to a title because it's kind of the end of your career, but he has pretty low fight mileage. And I want to see him get a top 10 guy next. Maybe Tim Elliott. I want to see him fight Tim Elliott, who's got that 10 spot, who hasn't fought in 2 years. Yes, he came back and got the win over a guy who has come from Ryzen in Kaya Sakura, and he gets the win. I think Charles Johnson, I'll just make sure he hasn't fought him before. I feel like he has for some reason. One moment, if you're listening on Spotify, I'm just looking up Charles Johnson's record. He's 18-7. I'm just making sure he hasn't fought Tim Elliott already. I feel like for some reason he has. Like his debut was against Muhammad Mokaev, as you know, is a really good flyweight. Got cut from the UFC because he's just a fucking idiot. Yeah, he hasn't fought Tim Elliott, so I think he deserves that fight with Tim Elliott. Take that 10 spot and keep climbing from there. He's done so much because he bought the high level prodigy prospect in Lonier Cabanagh, knocked him out in round 2. So I believe he deserves some respect in the rankings with the matchmaking. There's not really too much to update with the rankings. That was it after that event. But I wanted to get in, just do a quick look into some review of the year of as far as who's been the best fighter, best rookie, best card, comeback fighter, and let me know if I miss anyone to mention. But fighter of the year so far I got a few guys in mind, and you let me know who you think so far is fighter of the year, because we still have a quarter left, 4 months or so left of the year to get through. But so far, I'm looking at Rainer Derrida, RDR. If you just look at who he's fought and the wins he's had this year, he started off with that win against Kevin Holland, and then he versed Bo Nickel, fraud checked him, and then boom, catapulted to Robert Whittaker, gets a split decision win. So he's got 3 wins this year over 3 great fighters, 1 a former champ, and now he's fighting Fluffy Hernandez in October. So if he can beat Fluffy, he can definitely be right up there as fighter of the year. Yes, he's not fighting for belts or championships yet, or defending belts, but as far like he's on 1, 2, 3. He's on a 4-fight win streak in the UFC. He's been super active. He's already got 3 wins this year, and his fight last year was in November. So all pretty close together. So I got RDR as one of the fighters of the year so far. Obviously, the next guy, this guy got the ESPYs fighter of the year. I think it works differently the way they do it. It's like financial year, I believe. I don't think it's January to December. It's like July or whatever. And that's Merab Dvalishvili, bantamweight champ. He's can't do anything wrong at the moment. And this year he was a big underdog against Umar Nurmagomedov and beat him at his own game. So he's defended his belt against Umar in January this year, and then he defended it again against Sean O'Malley this year. So he's got 2 champ title wins. He's defended his belt 2 times this year, and now he's going to be defending it again against Corey Sandhagen. So if he can get that win over Corey this year, he might get fighter of the year 2 years in a row for the ESPYs. But as far as UFC, I think it was Topuria or Alex Pereira got fighter of the year in UFC last year. But I think Merab will probably get it this year if he beats Corey Sandhagen. So him, Merab and RDR, I think Merab might get the notch above just because they're championship fights. But yeah. And then I'll add one more in there. I got 2 more. Joshua Van, he's been on a great run this year. So far this year, he's been a great fighter. He's got 3 wins this year against Ray Saruya, Bruno Silva, and Brandon Royval. And he will probably be fighting against Pantoja sometime at the end of this year. So he could have 4 wins in a calendar year and win the belt. So he's very much could be, and like so far this year, has been one of the greatest fighters in the promotion and could get fight of the year if he wins that belt. And one more was Fluffy Hernandez, because he started off with a win against Brandon Allen, now Roman Dolidze, and now he's fighting RDR. So he's also been one of the best fighters this year, Fluffy. But I'd probably have him a notch below the 3 other guys I've mentioned. But let me know who you think's who's been the best fighter of the year so far in the UFC. And now, sorry, I'll move on to Rookie of the Year. So I categorize this by guys who have only just started fighting in the UFC this year. And as I was going through the cards, I was picking up a lot of great fighters. I'll quickly run off the list here. Probably missing some, and then I'll just go through what they've done this year, which was Marco Tulio, Quillan Salkild, Elijah Smith, Atiba Gautier, and Malcolm Wellmaker. So if I start off with Tulio, he's in the middleweight division. And he's got a few wins this year, a few knockout wins. Let's see. Yeah, he's got two knockout wins this year in the middleweight division. He came from the Contender Series. He was on it last year, got signed. So he's got 2 wins this year for Marco Tulio, Brazilian middleweight division. The next guy was Quillan Salkild. He's from Perth, Australia. Former eternal lightweight champ. He's come into the UFC. His debut was on the DDP Strickland card in Sydney earlier this year, and that's when he flatlined Anshul Jubilee, the Indian guy, in 19 seconds. And then he fought Yanal Ujmals. I think it was, heavy Russian grappler, ended up beating him at his own game. That was on the O'Malley Marab card in June. So he's got 2 great wins this year as a rookie coming into the UFC. And the next guy, Elijah Smith, he's the one that did that power bomb recently. I believe he's in the bantamweight division. So yeah, he's definitely could be a rookie of the year. He's got 2 wins this year in the promotion for Elijah Smith. And there were a few more others like Atiba Gautier. I believe he's in the middleweight division. He's from Cameroon, and he's had a solid start, absolutely flatlining guys. The Silent Assassin. And yeah, he's 2-0 this year. Back-to-back performance of the nights. Round 1 knockouts for Atiba Gautier. And then I got one more, Malcolm Wellmaker. This guy's had back-to-back vicious knockouts, and he's in the bantamweight division as well. He's 10-0 pro, 2-0 in the UFC. He was in the Contender Series last year. So Cameron Simon from South Africa, a very experienced bantamweight up-and-comer as well, but he finished him counter hook, right hook in the first round. And then Chris Moutinho finished him in the first round. I feel like that Moutinho one, like, will make it, as well as still isn't as experienced yet, but Chris Moutinho just stands in front of you, so it was kind of inevitable that was going to happen. But yeah, Wellmaker as well, Rookie of the Year. So let me know who you think so far has been the Rookie of the Year. I just listed off a few. There's probably more out there, but Quillan Salkild for sure. Bit of Aussie bias there, but yeah, Malcolm Wellmaker and Atiba Gautier. As far as like sleepers, Tulio and Gautier and Elijah Smith probably aren't as big a names, but have been great rookies this year. Now, who has had the best, who's been the comeback fighter of the year? And to kind of around the criteria of choosing this, you could be like who's been on a long losing streak and then has gotten a win back or have gotten a few wins back. First guy I thought of was Jimmy Crute. Just get up his record because he didn't have a win for 5 years. Back in COVID was his last win, Jimmy Crute, and he had a 2 year hiatus. So yeah, he didn't. His last win was in 2020. He came back against Rodolfo Bellato in Sydney early this year, and it was a draw. He had Bellato hurt. I think he was just super rusty and just couldn't get the finish. And then he gets the win armbar over Marcin Petrinho. So, and coming off, like he had 2 losses, a draw against Menfield, and then a loss to Menfield, 2 year hiatus, comes back, gets a draw, then back in the win column. So 5 years without a win until just July we had. So if that's not a comeback, I'm not here. But you know, that's I got to say that so far, like that's a pretty good comeback as far as career because I thought he was going to hang it up. There was signs of him retiring, and I got to say that's a pretty good comeback. Volkanovski, comeback of the year. Obviously, like he's only fought once against Diego Lopez this year. UFC just won't give him an opponent. Because he was coming off those back-to-back knockouts in 20 against Islam and Topuria. Back-to-back brutal knockout losses were like, this is the end of Volk. We're never going to see him get the belts again. We might not see him fight again. Or if he does fight again, we might not see him win again. So for him to come back against a guy like Diego Lopez, who was super tough, who just stands in front of you and throws. And as you saw in the fight, Volk did get dropped and sat down. And for Volk to come back and win that in Miami, I got to say that's a great comeback, and could be comeback of the year. That's one of my nominees. What do you think? Like that's got to be up there as comeback of the years, especially obviously it's only one win, but the stakes involved and how low he got, not like where he was at coming off those brutal knockout losses. It's a pretty damn good comeback. And another guy was Alex Hernandez, because he's been pretty up and down. He just got a great win over Chase Hooper with their knockout in the end of the first round. Because as you know, Hernandez was pretty hyped, and Cowboy kind of fraud checked him a little bit, and he's been super inconsistent. But he's on a 3-fight win streak. He's got 2 fights this year. So as far as a career comeback, Alex Hernandez is right up there. And this year, is very much starting to show and be more measured of what the fighter we think he was set out to be. And if he can get another fight this year, he could definitely be comeback fighter of the year, because he was on a 2-fight losing streak before the win over Austin Hubbard and the last year. And then the last guy I mentioned, I wrote down Kevin Holland, and I think it's like he just lost to D-Rod, but he was at middleweight losing. He finally committed to welterweight and fix his weight and where he can be successful. Because he started the year with a loss to a RDR. The fact that he fought RDR at middleweight you look back, is pretty crazy, that because he's now fighting at welterweight. Because yeah, he just round 1 rear naked choke by RDR. Kind of inevitable. And now he went on to fight Gunnar Nelson and Vicente, so he got 2 wins, and then that crazy roller coaster fight against D-Rod. And that was a fun fight. He lost it, but as far as comebacks, he's now booked against Mike Malott at UFC Vancouver. If he can win that, I mean, I feel like this guy, every time this guy fights, it's almost a comeback. Just because he wins, he gets a few wins and then he loses. And I don't know, I thought that was a special mention just from the start. A rough, like he was on a 2-fight losing streak from Roman to RDR. I just thought that was a special mention. And then we go on to what's been the best card of the year? What's been the best pay-per-view? And the first one I thought of was Volk Lopez UFC. Was it 314? Let's have a look. I feel like that's probably. Oh, I think International Fight Week, it's always going to be stacked, but outside of International Fight Week, which I'll get into, I think UFC 314 has delivered one of the best cards this year. You had the great comeback title fight with Volk Lopez, 5-round war. A movie-like shots, the way these guys were scrapping. Then you had Paddy Pimblett freaking demolish Michael Chandler. You had Yair welcome Pitbull to the UFC. That Jan Silva, the ninja choke over Bryce Mitchell. The Dominic Reyes knockout over Nikita Krylov. Actually, probably, so yeah, Dominic Reyes has got to be up there, comeback fighter of the year. So I had Dominic Reyes in there, comeback fighter. He's fighting in Perth against Carlos. I want Dominic Reyes to get that belt. That would be one of the greatest career comebacks of all time. We'll get into that when the Perth comes around and preview Dominic Reyes. But yeah, Dominic versus Nikita. And then you had Dan Ige, Sean Woodson, which was on the prelims. But as far as that main card and how it turned out, UFC 314, Volk Lopez, is probably one of the best cards of the year. Now, I'll go to UFC 317, which was Topuria Oliveira. Obviously, UFC International Fight Week, you're going to get more of a stacked card. And yeah, Topuria Oliveira, crazy knockout. Pantoja Kai France, Josh Van, Brandon Royval, Fight of the Year contention. Benil Moicano, nothing crazy. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then Talbot Lema. So, yeah. Let me know what you think has been the best card of the year. If there's a little sneaky Apex fight night in there, special mention to. But as far as pay-per-views, I think the Volk Lopez one delivered the best, I believe. And yeah, there's not too much else to get into. I'll quickly give you the look ahead as far as what's coming up in September. We've got Imavol Baralho in Paris in a couple of weeks. Then we got Lopez Silva, UFC Noche with Canelo Crawford on the same day. And then to finish off September, we got Olberg Reyes in Perth. So September is a bit lighter, but I kind of like that. Breaks it up a bit because October's looking crazy because we've got awesome main events, but also we got with that crazy co-mains like Yuri Prohaska. So October we've got Ankalaev Pereira 2, Oliveira Fiziev in Rio, Brazil, Derrida Hernandez, Vancouver, and then to end October, Abu Dhabi, Etihad Aspinall, the return of Aspinall versus Garns. So yeah, we've got a crazy run to the end of the year, but September, October looking juicy and thick of violence. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. We've been going almost 40 minutes. But yeah, MisFits Boxing this weekend. Let's go, Tony. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on Comeback Fighter of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Fighter of the Year. Be sure to comment, subscribe, and I'll do a review as well of the MisFits, the results of it, and continue to preview things ahead of the year in the UFC. But let me know your thoughts on the card this weekend and also on those fighters of the year. But enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the weekend off UFC, and I'll see you guys in the review. Have a good day.